Hear that too? Another thing about the Motif that I've always loved, which is going to figure into some of the sounds coming on, are the fact that we have key-offs. We have a synthesis engine in this guy that was pretty advanced for any sort of an instrument, where most things usually use 4 different components of the sound when you build an instrument sample that you can play. They're usually stuff like a soft strike layer, and then a medium strike layer, and a top strike, and things like that. But you usually stop at 4 with that. So we have actually 8 of these different elements, so we can add some more cool behaviors. Like one of them, this one, which is a pretty important part of the Wurlitzer sound, is just this little sound right here, the sound of the key off. And it's almost kind of a sound that is, you don't really hear it as much as feel it. It's part of how the instrument responds when you play it. As a player, you can definitely feel it. Something like this guy, this clavinet sound, this one, I mean, the key off is a really important part of a clavinet. So, because that's how a clavinet works. So this one right here is completely dry. Clavinet, brilliant treble, because when you sit down on a clavinet, you crank the treble up all the time to get that. We also have it going through an amp simulator. We also have it going through a phaser. We also have it going through a touch wah. This guy right there. I like the cool 70s. They're always super conservative when they do these. I usually do stuff like this. Crank the resonance up. Crank the, maybe not the attack, but the overdrive. So it gets a little bit more oomph to it. You do something else here. A lot of pedals you can't do this with. You change the direction. Right now it's, if I do it the other way. A little different when you have it with the, yeah, there's a nice smack. By the way, I should point out the fact that these speakers that we have here, these are 112, DSR 112s, our new 1,300 watt aside. 1,300, I have 2,600 watts right here. Powered monitors. John's going to talk about these tomorrow night, but I need to point out that they're awesome, and I'm going to get a pair of them. That's all that you're hearing. And if I crank it up a little later, which I will, so we can hear it, you'll be blown away by how great these new guys sound. So, another guy here, clavinet pedal wah. So here's my pedal. So what do these guys sound like? Well, I've got, actually, interestingly enough, a little tune here. You can see it right here. D6'd. So you can hear what these guys sound like, kind of in a little... So there's your... dry one through an amp. And then if I want to play this... You know, by the way, just as a little cool thing about this little sequence, I just played here. Oops, not that one, sorry. Right here, solo. Just the bass track in here. Let's start out. So on my bass line, again. Little behaviors. That's what 8 elements gives you. So, clavinets. So moving right along. Other things that they asked for? Simple thing, I just saw this last week. I was in Chicago, and I was at a music store, and a woman who was a harpsichordist at DePaul University came in to play things and was just hating every harpsichord sound simply because it didn't have the key off. This is like crank now, isn't it? And then the assignable function buttons right here unlock other layers of the sound. So with this guy, the octave stop and then the mute. So a new sound that was added. Other stuff that we added. Vox Continental organs. All new sounds. Sounds just like a Vox Continental. Farfisa is what that one was. All sorts of those kind of things. A new accordion sound, believe it or not, people wanted that. This one's pretty cool, though. The baffles are here. And then different stops on the assignable function buttons right here. Accordions are very important. This sound, this is the straight up jazz guitar. So, this one is completely dry. First one, I'm going to play it in context so you can hear what it sounds like. But this guy also has the slide, I played that earlier, and then the octave on this one. But without running through the amp like in the previous tune. So, go back here to the song mode, and I've got this little... which also actually has another new sound. We added a better vibraphone than the XS. Vibraphones, but so I'll move this forward in the sequencer. Right here, you see I have some scenes that are set up, right? Location 1, 26, and 50. What an ugly hand. So I'll move it to the guitar solo. Hear what it's... function buttons coming on now. So that sounds pretty good in context with that. Plus when you play it too, it's awesome. Oops, let's go to the right thing. Octave on. That's very cool, very, expressive. New sound. Other new sounds in here. I'll just move right on to some of the drum kits we added. A lot of great drum sets in the Motif. now we have some new ones in here. So here's a big maple custom kit. And with this guy, I always kind of point out on this that the insert effects are right on the front, the insert and system-wide effects are right on the front panel. That's a pretty bold thing to do. A lot of synthesizers, you can hide some pretty questionable wave inside effects. You put a lot of reverb, and you don't hear the fact that it's a pretty noisy sample. Another cool thing about this is if you're in a recording studio, a lot of times the engineer will say, hey, can you turn the effects off on your keyboard? And sometimes that's not exactly an easy thing to do. You know, it's like, oh, man, well, I got to enter the voice mode and edit. With this, we put them right on the front. So if you want all the effects off, you just turn them off. And now I can kind of play you just how good these drums sound just as raw samples. And they're really expressive, so. Different kick drums. New roll. Here, put the other. And then cymbals. With good long decays on them and really nice solid attacks. A lot of ride cymbals I always have problems with on stuff, and I like these guys quite a bit. So that's the maple custom kit, oak custom kit. Different sound altogether. Check out the difference in the toms. So no effects. Oak toms, maple toms. Maples are a lot more in your face. Oak's not as intense. Jazz kit. And the Jazz Maple Absolute kit. Different kicks on that. So lots of different snares, lots of different drum kits. A lot of stuff was added to that additional, whatever, 300 and something megabytes of wave ROM. So it's a pretty significant change from the XF in that regard. Voicing, there's a lot new voices, and of course the difference in the engine itself. Things sound just a little better on it. So that's the first thing that the Motif was built on. First thing was great sounds. Second thing that we've always done in all the Motifs is stuff to help you write music. So we have this performance category in here, or this performance mode rather, that with voices, you look up here and you're searching by category of instruments. So if you go to brass, you see your brass instruments, right? Which makes sense. Well, when I go to the performance mode and I use the category search, now I'm searching by musical style. So rock, and underneath rock, you have these different subcategories. Classic rock, hard. They put country under rock because it pretty much is pop music now, if you listen to some of those bands. So, in fact, a lot of new performances we added in here. I mean, this one is what... That's with no effects. There's your modern country. So again, I can go over here. We'll start out with top 40. You know, there's different stuff that's in here. There's let me find a good one in here. This one's funny until. So there's stuff that's very reminiscent of certain types of music, pop music in here. But we didn't really, you know, this wasn't the initial reason why we chose the performances in here.